All right, let's try that again. Good morning, everybody. Today is Sunday, July 20th. Iced Americano, 2 cubes. All right, if I was to do YouTube full time, I would be homeless because YouTube has paid me very, very, very little. And so today's topic is just going to talk about, how much does it cost to make a YouTube video? And then should you do it as well? Should you create content? Now, before we get into this, I do want to preface, I do have a full-time job that gives me the opportunity to be able to pursue, my hobbies. And so my job takes care of my bills, right? My YouTube absolutely does not. It could buy me a decent meal, a very decent meal actually for two, and then maybe boba afterwards. But by no means am I at a point where YouTube can pay my rent or just my life in general. All right, so how much does this all really cost? Let's break it down into chunks. So first thing we're gonna talk about is the gear. And then we'll talk about the ideation phase, coming up with the idea, putting together the script or the bullet points. Then we'll talk about the post-production. And then we'll talk about the actual uploading and the process of that. All right, so first off, the gear that I am using. All right, so I am actually using a Sony ZV-E10, and I think this camera is around $700 or so. The lens I have is a 16-35 f4 Zeiss lens. I believe when I got it at the time, it was like $1,300, so a little spendy for a lens. I don't think you need that to film these videos by any means. I wish the aperture was lower, but that's okay. And then I have this really cool Wireless Pro Rode mic that Rode actually sent out, so I didn't pay for that at all. That's about $400. But now, obviously, that's not everybody. They're gonna have to pay for their own microphone. Now, these mics are really nice. They're really powerful, easy to use. But do I think you need to do that? Absolutely not. I think you can get away with one of those cheap mics that you can find on Amazon, but I don't think you need a $400 or $500 mic, especially to start out. I don't even think you need the camera that I have to start out. All right, let me stop there before I get into a tangent. And then I have this key light that I'm using right now, which is a Lume Cube light, which graciously they've also sent out to me, but I think at least on their website it was like listed to $300 to $400. So do I think you need that light? I don't think so. I will say lighting is important. So, if right now I'm in a really dark room, and so if you can film in natural light where there's a big window, I think that'd be really helpful. That might save you some money there. All right, so that's the gear. Let me see, am I missing anything else? My camera, audio, tripod. I'm using the same tripod I got literally 10 years ago, and it's honestly still one of my favorite tripods. It's not a great tripod by any means. It's just like one of those tripods that you could just have. It can get beat up. It just works. Okay, so that's the gear that I'm using. Oh, I should also talk about the computer that I have. I used to edit on a Mac, but now I'm on Windows, and I got this computer from my brother for about $400. At least for myself, I'm very lucky that I already have a background in film production. So I'm no stranger to videos, I'm no stranger to editing, and so this part of my life I feel like I'm very fortunate in, because I think a lot of people, that's kind of like the hardest hurdle is the editing, the filming, and then talking on the camera. And I'm very fortunate and lucky that I've had a lot of opportunity to do those things and stay consistent at those things. And I say that because the amount of time I spend, trying to learn something like how to edit this and how to edit that, I've done that years behind me, and so the amount of time I'm going to spend is probably a lot less than maybe some other people. But so yeah, that's kind of the cost. I'll have the total like right here. Like this is how much it costs to make a YouTube video. Now let's move to the ideation, the script writing, all that stuff. How much time does that consume out of my life? Because while we're just talking about time, I'm spending time on this, it's taking away time from something else that I could be doing. I also have a life outside of work, outside of YouTube. I have a wife. Bling bling, check that out. And so, we like to enjoy our lives and, live life. I think that's very important. It's the ideation, creation. This is a little bit harder to track for me because if I'm speaking honestly, it's not like I just sit down and I'm like, all right, let's write out 10 ideas, let's write out the scripts, let's get it all scheduled out, boom, 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 boom. I am not that efficient, although I'd love to be. Let's see. I would say when I get a good idea in my head, honestly, they just come. or from when I'm watching a movie, from when I'm watching like a TikTok or whatever. They just come and they just hit me at random points of the day. But I'm gonna say that when I get a good idea and then I try to find the bullet point, it probably takes me about 30 minutes to an hour-ish. And then I like to sit on the idea because sometimes, you know, you get an idea, you're like, oh, this is gonna be a great idea. And then you go and you hit record and you're like, you know what? Now that I'm actually speaking this out loud, I think it's not a good idea anymore. So, yeah, I would say it takes about 30 minutes to an hour, and then maybe we'll just say another 30 minutes to kind of like sit on it. And this is not like consecutive. This is not like from like 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Like this is like broken out chunks of time throughout days that I'm kind of consolidating so that for you. So let's say it takes about 2 hours for the ideation phase and the kind of like consolidating the script and getting the bullet points all together. And by the way, when it comes to a script, I don't write out my ideas. The only thing that I will do is do bullet points. So, and I usually do bullet points on topics when I want to be very mindful of how I'm wording things. For this video, I have no script, no bullet points. Yes, I did have a rough idea in my head laid out, but I have like not written anything. So everything I'm saying is exactly how I'm thinking of it right here, right now, in the moment. All right, so now let's move into how much it takes for me to set up the camera, set up my lighting, set up my audio, and just, you know, be ready for the camera. I would say it probably takes a solid 1.5 hours. I would say 30 minutes for setup, 30 to 45 for a shoot, and then we're gonna leave the remaining time for just buffer. Maybe something doesn't work. You know, I had audio issues in the beginning of this, so I had to redo a part of the video. We'll just leave that chunk of time open, but I say 2 hours of my time. All right, so then once I've got the footage, I obviously gotta edit it, so I'll bring it to my computer, bring it to my editing programs, I bring it to DaVinci to color grade, then I bring it to Premiere to do all the cuts and the cool effects and text and all this stuff. And then I have to find music for it as well. And this is the longest part for me because it just really depends on how I'm feeling about this video. You know, there's videos where maybe it just takes me 40 minutes to edit because I just do simple cuts and that's it, no text, no effects. But then there are other times where I really want to put emphasis on a particular part of the video. And I want to just expand, you know, a little bit more than I would. So then it could be, you know, 4 to 5 hours. I can get really nitty gritty. I've been trying to do less because I think it's the most raw and authentic. The more cuts and visuals and just sometimes it can be a little bit of a clutter. But for the sake of the video, let's just say I'm gonna say 3 hours. 3 hours to edit the video. This includes render times. This includes, you know, time for revisions. If I notice an issue, I'll go back and fix it. All right, so that's the time it takes to edit. And then now we've got to upload the video. Uploading the video probably takes about 45 minutes, I'll just say. It's probably a little bit quicker, but sometimes I need to change something. And this also includes research time, right? So for the SEO, I want to make sure that my title is good, that I have the correct tags, just so that the video has the best opportunity to thrive and reach you. And then that's it. So this is the cost of the camera gear. This is the cost of the time it takes. And both are very important to deciding whether I think you should or shouldn't pursue creating content. Now, this is just my version of, you know, how I create content. You know, maybe it doesn't take you this amount of time, and maybe it doesn't take you this amount of dollars to create a video like this. And that's great. So everyone's is gonna look a little different, but hopefully that can be some insight. It can give you perspective into, you know, how much it looks like for me. And I would consider my channel to be a relatively small channel. We're at 7.93K subscribers. Thank you very much. You know, this is the biggest question that everybody asks. And I struggle with this a lot. In my early days, my focus was views, subscribers, that's it. And then good content came second. Making what I wanted came second. Making things I was proud of kind of came second. I was just so focused on that, and I failed. I think if your focus is that, you're gonna lose your motivation so quick. You're gonna be like, all right, 2 videos in, I'm only seeing 5 views, 10 views, 100 views even, and you're not gonna feel motivated. So this took me a long time to kind of switch this mindset. It took me a long time to realize this. last year was when I finally committed to making content relatively weekly and just keep making it no matter what the view count was. Now, don't get me wrong, I still had a benchmark, right? I still wanted, personally, I'm gonna tell you this, my benchmark was at least hitting 100 views. Anything past that, I'm like, okay, anything past 100 is good to me, and that's all that matters. I would say that that benchmark was relatively attainable, but also depending on the topic I was making, because I was kind of creating a new style of videos, I can also see it not doing as well. But so I think it's good to still set a benchmark, right? Because if you were to treat this like a business, which is debatable whether you treat it like a business or not, I think it's still good to have a metric of success. I think it's good to have a reasonable metric for success. If your expectation is to make 1,000 views, your first video, like it might happen, but it also might not happen. And if that's going to affect your motivation, I would try to switch your perspective. So the way I keep going is, I make videos that I want to watch. I make videos of things I like. I like watching people's long yap sessions. I like watching productivity videos. So I make content that I like. Think about it as investing in your future self. Think about it long term. You're not going to see the results right away. You might not even see results on certain things. But if you don't focus on that, don't focus on the noise. Create content because you want to. Create content because you want to share your voice, share your perspective, share just your story. That's why you should create content, in my opinion. So, you'll see a kind of a shift on my videos. If you scroll really far back, a lot of my videos were like, tutorials or, try to do this, or things like that. And I was like, you know what? I don't know if I like making those videos, so I switched it. I was like, I like talking, I like yapping. I want to talk about things that maybe I feel like I've not seen people in my space talk about. So that's what I really try to do. And I would say it's been more successful that way. All right, so do I still think it's worth it? I'm gonna say yes. If you have a desire to create content, to tell your story, and you need someone to tell you whether you think you should or shouldn't, I'll tell you. I think you should. Do I think it's going to be easy? No. Do I think it's going to be everything you imagine? No. Do I think that everyone's going to love what you make? No. That's the truth of it. That's going to be the hard truth. There's going to be these roadblocks that you don't expect. There's going to be times in your life where you're just not feeling it, and it's going to slow you down. So there's going to be all these sort of things. And I'll flip the question back to you. Do you think that if these things were to happen, that you still would want to pursue it? If the answer is yes, if none of these things bother you, then absolutely, I think you got it. If you're like, ooh, I don't know, that's a little bit tough, maybe it's not for me, then, I would, work on your skills, work on your speaking, work on your editing, work on your writing, work on your, there's other things that you can do to kind of set yourself up. Even though I really started putting in the effort of consistency last year, this is years and years and years of, 1, creating content for myself, 2, creating content for others, and then 3, working. 2 also helps because you work on those, you work on skills that you might not think influences this area of work, but it does. Everything that you see, there's nothing is just like I just did this in a day. It's the cultivation of your small tasks that you do day in, day out over a long period of time to create the version that you are today. I hope that can answer your question. I hope that this was interesting, provides value, provides perspective. I think creating content is really awesome because it's an opportunity where you get to decide how the story is told. And it's just a really fun, creative outlet for me personally. I definitely won't be living off the YouTube paycheck just yet, but hey, that's okay. That's why I've got a job, do good work there, and then I can come here and I can, treat this as a hobby, treat this as a creative outlet, and then that's exactly what this is. All right, so right now we are in my YouTube metrics, so let me go and switch that to, let's just do the last 365 days. So for those that are new or for those that have been returning, I've been on YouTube for a good amount of time, but I really started posting, I would say September-ish of last year. And I think maybe I had one other upload earlier that year, but overall it's been basically just that. So we'll just do 365 days to keep it easy. And you can see those numbers being reflected right here. You can see that we had really minimal views. You know, I upload things here and there, but really the bulk of it kind of started, it looks like it was actually November. And there was like just, nothing happening, 30, 20 views. So yeah, let's take a look at the metrics. As you can see, in the last 365 days, we reached almost 500,000 views. We had 9.7K watch time hours, which is pretty decent. And then we gained 5.3K subscribers, which is just awesome. And then our estimated revenue was $289.87. So as you can see, it doesn't make a whole ton of money. But aside from money, the video, and I know which video that really popped off for me, and I'll show you which one that was, but this video actually trickled down and brought a lot of, other opportunities for my other videos to be discovered. And so this is the video I had made. And this video was essentially just talking about why I think you should document your life right now. And anyway, so as you can see, it hit 102K views. Now, one thing to note though is that it did not hit 102K right away. So if we actually look at the metrics, oh yeah, you can see it right here. I have vidIQ installed. It's a free plugin, not sponsored, whatever. If you take a look at the metrics, you can see that when I first published it, it was kind of idling around 2K views. So it actually did pretty well upon just uploading. And at the time, I had maybe 2-3K subscribers. Probably 60 days is when it really just propelled and had a really big increase, and that led me to just right. So you can see that the life of the content on YouTube, you may not always see the results right away. The exposure of that video has led to other people discovering my other videos, which is really helpful. And so I try to create content that can provide value to those same people. All right, I'm done yapping. That's it. I hope you have a great day, great weekend. Have a great week ahead, and let's crush it. Peace.